Real Madrid parted company with Xabi Alonso, to put it nicely, and obviously he was linked to the Liverpool job when Jurgen Klopp announced that he was leaving. But with Arne Slot having struggled this season considerably so, and seemingly there's been no news of any contract negotiations being on the way, or certainly they're not advancing. Do you think that Liverpool could look at the situation with Xabi Alonso and think, oh, he's been sacked by Real Madrid, perhaps it might be time to bring him in early rather than wait until the end of the season?
I think in the immediate short term, it doesn't have any huge effect on Liverpool. I mean, I really doubt that Xabi Alonso is going to kind of want to jump straight back into work. I think he'd like to take a break to the summer. In the immediate short term, yeah, for Arne Slot doesn't necessarily have any significance. But in the longer term, or medium term, I guess you would call it, to the summer, I think it has huge significance. I think it matters a lot because what it does is it just adds a new pressure to Arne Slot. And I mean, we've been speaking about the idea that he is kind of a little bit under pressure between now and the end of the season. I think to prove that he deserves to stay as Liverpool manager, because when he gets to the end of the summer, Liverpool will look at it and say, right, he's got 1 year left on his contract. That's not too much to pay up. Is our best bet going into next season Arne Slot or this manager, or this manager who are available to us this summer? And that is the call that Liverpool are looking to make. Um, Now, who was available in the summer was very much up in the air. But now we know that at least one of the managers that Liverpool had closely tracked, that they had spoken to, that they have got very good relations with his representatives, will be available. And I do not think that Alonso's standing amongst Liverpool's recruitment staff will have been damaged in the slightest by what went on at Madrid, because he did not get sacked for um, the quality of his work. He was, the friction was all there, even when the results were good, because quite clearly that squad does not wish to be managed or coached in a modern way. Now, Liverpool is a completely different working environment, and one that would suit Alonso down to the ground. And of course, he has the affection. Liverpool like him. He has an incredible track record. So, what will happen is my expectation is Liverpool are going to get to the summer and they will say, let's take Arne Slot's last 18 months. Let's look at those, his underlying performance, how he is doing in the job. Is this better than what we think Xabi Alonso can produce? Or maybe Luis Enrique's in the mix, maybe any other manager that they quite like. And that is the call that they will make. And I think you can't predict which way that will go, that call, and maybe Slot will, instigate a massive improvement between now and the end of the season. But having that option there, I don't think helps his prospects, and I think it creates a bit more pressure around that he will need to show improvement between now and the end of the season. Because the only reason he did not get sacked after the really bad run of 9 defeats in 12 is that Liverpool looked and thought, and they made the call of, we have is Arne Slot the best man to sort us till the end of the season versus who we could get in on an interim basis? And Slot was the better manager there. Will he be the better manager when they come to making that decision around who should be the manager come the summer? That's really up in the air. And so, he needs to sort things out. And plus, what it does do as well is I think, he almost, because Liverpool will have competition around Alonso. Manchester City may be looking for a new manager. Manchester United definitely will. They almost need to know earlier whether they're going to go in for him as well. And so the window in which Slot can impress upon them that he deserves to be the Liverpool manager next season has maybe shrunk a little bit as well. So, you throw all that in together, and I think it's a hugely significant move from Real Madrid, and has, reverberations that reach as far as Merseyside. I think it has huge significance for Slot and Liverpool in terms of what happens next for them.
Yeah, you'll suspect that by the time the summer approaches, you'll see loads of managerial changes because, Oliver Glasner, Andoni Iraola, Michael Carrick, maybe he performs well at Manchester United, who knows? But sticking with Liverpool and their managerial situation, I know you briefly mentioned it there about how Xabi Alonso wasn't necessarily sacked at Real Madrid because of results, and it was seemingly a squad that just did not want to be coached in a modern way. So you don't hold any concerns that he wasn't able to necessarily handle the big personalities at Real Madrid, because I know that Liverpool players, they're not necessarily like they are at Real Madrid, but at the same time, it is still one of the biggest clubs in the world.
I wouldn't think so. I think the fact is that Real Madrid, they just don't want to be managed, that squad. They need the kind of soft touch approach that Zinedine Zidane kind of initiated, and then Carlo Ancelotti followed. And you know the fact that you could see that that was the problem rather than because he did have a few poor results, of course. You know, they got beaten by Liverpool, Manchester City, Barcelona, albeit those are three results I guess you can kind of excuse, but they were beaten by Celta Vigo not that long ago as well. And a few draws in there that were disappointing. So the results ultimately caught up with it. But the fact it's so clear to me that wasn't necessarily the problem was the results is that he arrived at Anfield in November for the game against Liverpool, having won, I think, 11 out of his first 12 games as Real Madrid manager, just the one defeat, which was to Atletico Madrid. Um, and he was already under pressure. And so it was clearly wasn't anything to do with the results or anything like that. It was that the players didn't want to run. They didn't want to do what he wanted them to do. They didn't want to, they might press a little, but then they didn't want to get back in shape if they got beaten because well, we didn't used to do this under the other guy, so why are you telling us to do this? So he was just such a bad fit for them because he does want to coach. He does want to do tactical things that these players are not going to buy into. And I think it's not necessarily about managing superstars because Liverpool have got them, but I think Liverpool only buy superstars who've got a level of humility. And you do not find that at Real Madrid at all. So I think he'd be a far better fit. I think the squad in general would be much more open to adapting to his methods. And I think actually you've seen proof of that this season because I think a, a run of 9 defeats in 12, that would have been the end of any manager at Real Madrid, and the players would have completely stopped trying. Whereas Liverpool's squad, I think you can see it hasn't been perfect recently, but they're 11 unbeaten. They've got behind what the manager's trying to do. They've executed what he's asked them to, and even though it maybe hasn't been the most fun football to play, it hasn't particularly worked brilliantly in terms of streaming off a load of wins and actually playing fantastic football. But they've tried, they've put their effort in, and I think that speaks volumes about the kind of attitude and the professionalism within the squad. And I think he's in a total different stratosphere to that at Real Madrid, really.